You eating muffins?
So I can have a muffin.
Okay. Siphesihle Nxokwana.
Yes.
It's nice to meet you, Siswam.
Nice to meet you too.
So I've been sent by the Association of Black Women. They are not happy with your conduct online and your misrepresentation of the female fraternity. And they asked Penzo to intervene. Tio Buti, please. Usisi is failing us. No, but on the real, how have you been? How are you doing? And more importantly, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of people vele tag you in my comments saying, you should go to Penuel. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see what he's about. But I was also patient, like when the time is right, you'll call me. But I've been very good. I think I've just been in an interesting space ever since I came onto social media. So, but I don't think that it was nothing that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like taking it one day at a time, basically.
So you do wear makeup?
Yeah, I do. Occasionally, though. So for me, makeup is I want to look beautiful today. Like, I want to be extra. So that's what makeup is for. It's not for, I don't feel confident in the way that I look, so I need to have makeup on at all times. So
don't you attack women for making themselves up sometimes?
No, that's the thing. Like, I've never said that. That's so crazy because there's this one video that I said they have filters on, not makeup. There's a difference.
What's
so
the
what
difference?
what I said and what they heard are two different things.
But what's the difference between a filter and a makeup? Both of them are an augmentation of your natural self.
Both of them enhance, right? That's how I see it. They enhance.
Sure.
So for makeup to me is, this is my face, my nose, my eyes. They're not adjusted. It's just that I put something on them to make them pop out.
Okay.
Filters is an adjustment of my nose. It's an adjustment of my cheeks because it makes them,
Your jawline.
and that's why I said that now everyone starts looking the same, because filters are made out of an image of, okay, let's say Western women, white women, Caucasian women. So then now you're taking, that's why I said Kim Kardashian's face specifically, and you're putting it on your face, so it's adjusting. It's not enhancing, it's not bringing out, it's not making your eyes pop, you see? So that's the difference. So they heard me say they mustn't put makeup on and wear wigs. I was like, when did I say that? Because I only spoke about filters. So you see, they don't listen. That's the thing.
Yeah, you're a problem. So, in your opinion, I guess, why would you think people would tag me or want me to sit with you? Just in your opinion.
Because you're a controversial guy. Like
Oh.
You are. Yeah, that's like you don't speak about things in the normal way, in the most accepted way. You express yourself in however way you want to express yourself. So they felt like we align in the way that we express ourselves. We don't care. We just say what we want to say. So that's why they were like, okay, Penuel is the perfect platform for that, because he accommodates people like you. And I'm not going to lie, with the other podcast that I went to, I sort of felt like, okay, because this podcast is about this and it normally brings these type of people, I sort of had to fall in line with that, So this one, I was excited because I was like, oh my gosh, I can just say whatever I want to say.
No, you must also adjust to culture, Lana. Hey,
what's the culture here?
The culture is you must speak well of women.
No such thing. I'll say what I want to say. Even in the other platforms that I've been in, I've said what I wanted to say, but I've, sort of like put it in a different way.
Yeah.
So here I just feel like anything goes.
Are we allowed to speak about your home, or specifically where you came from now? Not. Don't have to go into detail, but
As in my
I wanted
background.
to ask: Are you born and raised where you came from now?
Yes, I'm born and raised here in Johannesburg, Gauteng.
Okay.
But my parents are from Eastern Cape.
Okay.
But we grew up here our whole lives. Like, we didn't
In the East
necessarily
Rand?
go. Yes.
Ekurhuleni.
In the East, yes.
So Umkhosa.
Yes, 100%. Both my parents are Xhosa, so I'm not even a mixture.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Guys, why do people still do that? Like, every time I tell a guy I'm Xhosa, they're like, yo, okay. Bye-bye.
Especially Xhosa guys, right?
No, guys from other
Other cultural groups.
cultural, yeah.
Oh.
They're like, yo, I cut, sissy. Because it's like, okay, they feel like we're problematic or we love money. And I'm like, guys, you still think that? Like, you still
that not
put
true,
that
though?
stereotype on us. I think that we're the loudest, but we're the same as any other women. So let's say, for example, Tswana women also love money, but they're not as loud as we are.
Okay.
So we're loud. Like, we're going to be like, yo, ndifuni mali. I want money, ungazi kumngena mali. But then Tswana hands can want money, but they're not going to be loud. You're only going to know when you're dating her that, oh, crap, this girl, she wants money, actually. You know, she's just like any other girl. So I think we're just very bold and very loud and very out there. That's why it's like those stigmas attach on us so easily.
Do you think those stigmas and stereotypes are accurate? By accurate, I mean, you're almost arguing that Xhosa women are honest.
Yeah.
They're just loud, but the bottom line is they are honest. It's not
Yes.
that when they say we love money,
They're
or we want
doing it
this,
for sure.
they-
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I know that like in my family, even extended family, like that's a thing that like I look, you know,
Kaloku what?
indaba yemali, it's a real thing. Like, you know, it's something that we know that is supposed to be there. And we want it, you know, just like I said that every other woman also wants it. We're just more honest about it and we're more upfront about it. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with the way that they go about it. Because for me, yeah, money is great, but I don't put it like up there, you know. So I know that it's true, Vele, because I hear it from my fellow Xhosa sisters. All of it is true. But I think individuals can go about it differently. And I think I just go about it differently.
You look very young. So if you may, you don't have to give an exact age. Are
It's
you
not
young?
that deep. Why do people feel like the
Well,
age
it's normally
thing is-
young women that don't mind saying their age. It's the older ones that
Yeah, probably.
So,
Maybe when I get older, I'll start.
you seem young. So if you don't mind giving your age, number one, and then the second question would be, do you hate women?
Okay, number one, I'm 27 years old.
Okay. You look younger though, you know that.
Yeah, no, for
You
sure.
could pass for like a high school.
Yeah.
Shout out to your parents and the jeans.
Yeah, no, definitely. My mom is like, she's 60, but she would never say.
That's dope.
Like,
Those are good
so,
jeans. Siyabonga.
Yeah, so definitely.
Yeah.
It's got its perks, but yeah, it's got its negatives and positives, but I'm grateful either way. Do I hate women? Does it sound like I hate women? Because I feel like I don't. Like,
love
if
women.
anything, I love women and I love being a woman. It's just that I don't necessarily agree with the way women carry themselves or the way that they think in this day and age. So if anyone literally listens to my content, there is nothing hateful about that content. Like, I feel like hate for me is something different. It's saying like, oh, women are so annoying. Oh, I wish I wasn't a woman. Like, oh, women are this. Like, you know, it's me showing dislike for them and the words that I use are showing dislike. But if I'm saying what you're saying is nonsense, it doesn't make sense. How does that sound like hate? Because I'm just telling you that what you're saying doesn't make sense. The standards in which you say you live by don't actually make sense and they're false and they're misleading to other women. And that's why I always make sure that when I make my content, I'm always like, guys, this is what we're learning from so and so and so. And I don't want other girls to follow in this path because it's not the one. It doesn't work out.
You seem young, so where does your moral compass come from? Why would you have the audacity to feel like, you know, you have a better way for young women especially to live?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Okay, so my parents, first of all, they are a prime example of morals. And so they've always set a standard. Like my dad was always like, you know, me, when I want a family, I'm not going to smoke, blah, blah. So we've never seen things like this. Like we've always seen him carry himself in a specific way. Same goes to my mom. And then on top of that, I come from a Christian family. So we are very church, Jesus and all of that. So that's where the morals come from. Not only is it like theory to me that guys, oh, we should live this way, let's do this, let's not do that. I actually live it and I've lived it my whole life. That's why I have the audacity to say it's possible. That's why I have the audacity to say, hey, this is not life, because I know another life and I know for sure that it's much more fulfilling than what is portrayed on social media.
Are you married?
No, I'm not.
Are you dating?
No, not currently, no.
Am I allowed to ask sensitive questions?
Okay, I'll tell you if I'm comfortable answering it.
There's a celebrity woman celebrated popular woman called Rorisang.
Yes, Rorisang Thandekiso.
She's made a huge name for herself, besides all of her talents and skills, in speaking about being a Christian woman, devout Christian woman, and in preserving her virginity.
Yes.
Waiting to get married. And so when you speak about morals and you live them, and are you a virgin? Are you waiting to get married? You don't have to answer that first part, but are you living a Christian lady, girl life? And is that what you want other people to live?
I believe in waiting for marriage 100%.
Okay.
I believe in keeping yourself until you find your husband, etc., etc. So I've always lived by that. I've always known that, and I've always made sure that I do it to the best of my capability to make sure that I meet that standard. And although realistically it doesn't, like, a lot of people don't actually get there, but I believe in consistently trying. Like, even if you did it before in the past, you can try again, be celibate again until you get married.
Yeah.
If you're celibate for 3 years and then you made a mistake on the 4th year, you can start again.
A
Like, you know,
mistake?
as in, like, you slip. I'm sure if you're
You
making
slip?
slip as in you do the act. I'm sure celibacy
Is that
is
slipping? So I'm just asking. My apologies. Please continue, ma'am.
I wouldn't assume that you would do it intentionally, because I know that if you're saying that you're celibate, the intention is to do it when you're married,
Sure.
right? So then now, I would assume that if you went straight for 3 years, you didn't do anything, and then the 4th year, you met one guy, and then you got into it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did it on purpose or you don't care about your journey anymore. So that's why I believe that you can always start again. Like, just start again, just continue until you reach there. So I understand that, like, you know, not everyone is going to be like Rorisang. And I think that I'm not necessarily trying to make everyone live the life that I live, or I want them to believe in Jesus necessarily. It's more of like, I've seen another way, and I can attest to how fulfilling this way is. I can attest to how peaceful, to how, you know, you just feel fulfilled in general. And I want more women to experience that, because I necessarily wasn't satisfied with just sitting there living my life and being like, okay, as long as I don't do it, I don't care if Bang Bang is getting drunk out of her mind or she's living in destruction. It's none of my business. I was never satisfied with that. And in the Christian faith, you're always trying to help other people. You're always trying to reach out to other people. That's what it encourages at all times. That the Jesus that you have, the love that you have, the wholesomeness that you have, the peace, the favor that you have, why do you want to keep it to yourself? Why do you not bring it out to other people and say, hey guys, there's another way. I can see you're not satisfied. You're not happy. There's another way. So that's what I'm trying to do, basically.
You don't mind women slipping in the pursuit of trying to be holy
I
women?
do not mind it at all, because me living the life that I've lived, it doesn't mean that I didn't slip into things.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that I didn't make mistakes. It didn't mean that I didn't go into things not knowing what it was and then realize that, oh my gosh, okay, I need to not go there, you know? If anything, for my background, I was a late bloomer. Like, I was very, you know, I didn't necessarily know what boys were. Like, I was always this girl that was very focused on me, go to school. So it was only when I was 20, 21 that I was like, okay, let's see, what are boys? You know, let's talk to boys, let's see. Do you understand? Because that curiosity is normal. So that's when I was like, okay, let me talk to boys, let me see what's going on. And then I realized, oh, okay, these type of boys, absolutely not. And there's certain things that I learned that, oh, okay, if I go this far, this is what's going to happen, and that's not good, you see. So I don't mind people making mistakes, as long as you're constantly pursuing it and you're constantly trying to be better.
How long, in your opinion, is a woman allowed to slip for? What if she slips from age 18 to 30 and it was a mistake? And now she's like, I slipped for 12 years, but now I'm ready to be a holy child of the most favored. Those things.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of women, it's not necessarily a mistake, it's just not knowing better, because other people, it's environment, where you come from, that has influenced you into walking this path. for example, if I grew up in a different environment, I would have been like those ladies, mas. You understand? So I don't feel like, oh, I'm special because I'm Sihle. I know that my environment contributes to that. My beliefs contribute into that. So I understand that some women just don't know any better. Like, you didn't have money, so you went into prostitution, or, you know, in your environment, girls didn't finish school or whatever. This is a life that they lived, so you do that. So I think that anyone, even if it was 20 years, as long as you change, I know that men have a problem with that, like the whole rebranding thing that, all of a sudden now, hey, you lived your life, you did this, now you want to come. And for me, it's like, okay, it's not even about you, it's about them. So there's a man out there that's going to be like, you know what, you are the wife for me right now. I don't care about your past, even though it's very rare, especially if you do things out in the public. Let me give you an example. If, let's say, nobody knew me and I lived 8 years and I was doing things on the streets, and then when I turn maybe 30, and then I'm like, okay, you know what, let me change my life. I need to do something differently. I move somewhere else. No one's going to know that that was my past. So the difference is that the girls in the industry, everybody knows your past.
Sure.
Everybody knows what you've done. So you can't necessarily erase it, you see. So no man is going to come to you and be like, I don't care about what you did, because what you did is always on the internet.
Yeah.
They can't not care even if they wanted to. So I think there's a difference. Some people, they're lucky because nobody knows what you've been doing. Other people, it's been out there on blast. That's why you're going to struggle to get to that point.
Should a person's past matter? Whether it's on the public domain or not? Should a woman who maybe wasn't in the streets and online, should she confess to a guy now that she's rebranded and be like, yo, I used to be in the streets, bro. It's flames. If you see random guys smiling and greeting, just know that might be my history. Or should people keep that stuff to themselves?
I think that either way it's going to come out. Because I don't have to come to you and be like, Penuel, this is my past before you accept me. This is what I've been doing. Take it or leave it. But in the relationship, you can see, hey, this girl, she's always texting other guys. That's showing you that I've never been used to committing to one person. You know, those things come out in small ways. Maybe you've got traumas, now you've got trust issues, you can't trust. That shows that, oh, okay, there's a past that you come from. So I feel like we don't even necessarily have to announce it, but it's always going to come out. And that's why I believe that prevention is better than cure. That's why I'm trying to say, don't even start, young girls. Don't even get into that life. Don't see influencers and think, oh, this is the life that I need to, because it's going to end up here. And once it's here, it's going to be very hard to go back. It's going to be very hard to erase, you see, that past and how it has affected you as a person moving forward. So, to answer your question, the past does matter. It doesn't need to, but it's always going to affect you one way or the other. Because even me, for the small things that I went into, I'm still trying to deal with them even today. Like, oh, damn, that was one time, but I'm still, you know, there's still that trauma. There's still that...
Trauma, guilt.
More like trauma, like it was an unnecessary experience. Like I didn't need to experience that type of thing.
But you don't blame other people, you blame yourself.
I always take accountability.
Yeah.
Some of the things, they're not my fault, but I'm always like, okay, but how did I even allow it to get there in the first place? Yeah. Because for some people, things didn't necessarily happen to you. You didn't ask for it, but it happened to you. But I'm always like, okay, there's nothing I can do. I can't chase Penuel and say, oh, Penuel, you did this to me forever. Like, he's going to live his life. He's going to move on. I need to take accountability for my part and say, okay, the reason why I even accepted a guy like Penuel is because this is how I think. This is how I've always viewed things. And I feel like moving forward, it will be best for me to start thinking differently. So that's the part that's that I love so much about accountability, because it will always enrich the one that is taking charge of their lives.
I think... outside now of trying to defend women, I think one of the reasons why so many young men, boys love you so much, and why so many women find offense in you is because we're dealing in a society where many women struggle with accountability.
For sure.
They
For sure.
are so used to being victims. And we live in a society where blaming men is the order of the day.
Of course.
How, outside of maybe making videos, which is pretty brilliant and I appreciate it, at least myself and most other men, how do we train young girls to take accountability for their lives and their actions and not blame poverty and not blame, yeah, well, everyone was doing it, yeah, well, whatever. How do we change that type of environment and culture, especially for young girls that are coming up now?
I always say in my videos that if you're going to do something, you're doing it to yourself.
Mm.
So I can say, okay, this guy, he cheated on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go sleep with his friends. So that guy going to be affected by the fact that you're sleeping with his friends just to get back at him? He's not. You're the one that's going to be affected by the fact that now you're sleeping with other people. That's your body. That's something that you're doing to yourself. So I can't say, well, the reason why I'm living this life is because this man cheated on me. He never treated me well. So this is the result of that. I'm going to do this because, yeah, he did that. And I'm like, just like that. But this is you, though. You're the one facing the consequences. You're the one suffering. So if you think you're doing it to someone else, that's where you're getting it wrong. So I think them not taking accountability is them thinking that they're not doing it to themselves, they're doing it to men. So if I'm always online and I'm saying, yeah, men, we hate men. Oh, you guys are, what do they call these South African men? Oh, yeah, ugly, leprechauns, they call them whatever
Damn.
names. You think that that's doing something to men. Like they see your video and they scroll past. Like it's not that deep for them. You're the one that's sitting there with all that hate. You're the one that's sitting there with all that running away from yourself because you don't want to face yourself. You're constantly looking on the outside. So that's why I always try to tell them that if you're not gonna listen to your mom or you're gonna go with whatever society is saying that it's not your fault, blame men, you must just know that you're doing it to yourself, no one else. So that's why I always took accountability and I'm like, okay, some things, girl, you didn't make the right decision there. And whose life is that changing? Mine. Penuel is gone. He doesn't know me. He doesn't even care. He's moved on with his life. I'm the one that's remaining in the situation. So that's why I need to take accountability for myself, not for you.
Yeah.
So for a lot of women think that if they take accountability, that means the men are free. Like, men are free. They're not going to suffer. They're not going to... It's not in your hands to make them suffer. It's not in your hands to make sure men feel the pain of what they did to you or what you think they're doing in society. When you can only take the part where it's for you and what you can do for yourself. The rest...
Outside of your parents, because I think that's very important. There's a lot of girls that go to church. There's a lot of girls who claim they are Christians. But they don't have your moral compass and they don't have your discipline, I guess I'd call it. I'm worried that you may be unique. And we may make videos and speak about it and ask girls and even ask them to go to church. But nothing's going to change. I think some of the questions I'm going to ask you are unfair because I'm almost expecting you to be an expert on some of these things. Where do you think we got it wrong, specifically as Black people? Because we had, Christianity comes with the colonizers, of course, but it's some type of moral compass. But we had a way of living before, which wasn't Christian, but it still was about female purity. It still was about preserving your body. It wasn't about sleeping with every guy whose father has lots of cows.
Yeah.
Where do you think we went wrong as a nation, as a Black nation in particular?
I think progressiveness and always looking to the West for anything, basically, and social media as well.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we as Black people had our way of living and it worked for us. The way that we disciplined our kids, the way that things were done, it worked for us. It doesn't mean that it was perfect, but it had its pros. It was working for us. And I think the whole thing of now there's white people, there's TV. Now you get to see in Bold and the Beautiful that Brooke doesn't hit her child anymore. She says this and this, and education as well, because most of the things that we get are influenced from the West.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the West. Like the West is constantly trying to change, is constantly progressing, and they call it secular progressive program, meaning that the things that happened the ways of life 20 years ago are not the same anymore. They're constantly trying to move into the new thing, like, no, gentle parenting. No, this doesn't work anymore. This is traumatic. Like, this means your child has ADHD, so don't force them to read a book. Make them do something different. Like, leave them alone. They can't. And those are the things that stall us because, for example, things like depression and whatnot, they were not a thing necessarily for us Black people. You just knew that, you know what, you need to just go. You need to just push. Did it have negatives? Of course. But for the majority of it, like, we didn't sit there and be like, oh no, I'm depressed. But what did the West do? No, depression is real. Mental health is real. You have ADHD. Oh, you have anxiety. Now you have girls and boys online saying, oh, my anxiety would peak. I can't go to an interview. Oh, my anxiety. And it's like, you're not the first person to have anxiety. 20 years ago, 50, 100 years ago, people had anxiety, but they didn't dwell on their anxiety. They didn't label it and make it part of their personality. So I think that's the thing with the West. Like, we're constantly looking at the West to tell us what to do, and it's not even working out for them.
Yeah.
Their communities are falling apart. Their families, their environments in jail, it's a mess. It's a mess. Even in the media, it's a mess. So why are we even looking to them for anything? And I feel like if we were secure as our own people and we believed in the things that we believed in, then it wouldn't be necessary. But social media makes it hard, because you can tell me, my parents can be like, Sihle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no such thing. But when I go on TikTok, someone is telling me that, oh, there's a maladaptive spirit, that's why you can't do ABC. You see, so now it's like, there's too many things that people have to consider, and that's what's driving us further and further away from the things that are right and the things that we should be doing.
Do you think there are people that sit out there and engineer the stuff, who make sure that we watch
For sure.
honorary Xhosa woman Brooke Logan
No, for sure.
and social media, and intentionally want to turn young black girls into prostitutes, because that's
sure.
what they are today,
For sure.
and intentionally destroy maybe black men, brand them as abusers, drive them to depression and taking their lives?
I believe 100%, because even when I go onto Google, you know, Google, hey guys,
Yeah.
hey. There was this one time I was Googling feminism, ne? And I was trying to find out reasons. Oh, why did they, in the past, why did they not allow women to vote? The first thing Google said was, because they're stupid, and because men thought they're stupid and emotional. Then I was like, okay, let me actually click on that thing.
Sure.
And when I clicked on it, it said, oh, some people thought.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. So you see, if you don't go deep into things, Google will just give you what they want you to know.
Sure.
You see? So that's why I believe that 100%. Even things like my body works for me. When I made a video about, I was saying that young girls should wake up before it's too late. I made an example with Wandi from My Body Works For Me. And I was saying that, like, the life that she's living is absolutely not normal. And you can see that it's traumatic for her. But because there's apartments, houses, nice hair, it just looks like it's flashy.
Yeah.
And then someone said, oh, Sihle, no, these people come from a background. I'm like, if you... And they said, let me finish that thought. They said that she comes from a poor background and some people need to do what they need to do. And I'm like, that's okay if you're on the side of the road and your head is covered at night and you're waiting for a car to come pick you up so that you can sleep with the person for money. But if you're flashing it on TV, it's no longer a poverty thing. It's no longer, I don't have opportunities. Till this day, she doesn't have opportunities to do something different.
Now it's like you're showing off.
Yeah,
and
now you're trying
advertising to the world.
Exactly. Now you're trying to make it normal that girls, you don't even have to be poor. You don't even have to come from a struggling background. You can just wake up and be like, I want to do that. And that is normal and that is okay.
Yeah.
So the fact that they can make a show like that is because they want you to think that. They want you to see those things. And that's why I use my platform to be like, do you think this thing is normal? Why do they think that this is okay? Especially if this girl is constantly expressing that she has to clean herself, she has to do this, these are the things that she has to go through. But they still put it out there. Like, what about the consequences? You're not telling us about that. You're showing us weaves and apartments and pictures on Instagram. That means nothing, you see. So I know that for sure, even with black men, with the black men as abusers and not being fathers and all of those things, those are things that we're constantly seeing. But if there's a black man at a kindergarten and they're there bringing their daughter, women will say, bare minimum, that's bare minimum. So what do you want us to do?
Thinking a fish for swimming.
Thinking a fish, even women giving birth, that's also thinking a fish for swimming because that's what you're supposed to do. But if we bring that story, it's going to be like, oh, but do you know how hard birth is? Do you know how hard for black men it is to take care of their children these days? Do you understand? So everyone is just like, we want it to be as negative as possible. If there's any inch of positivity, we're going to bash it and be like, what is this? This is nothing. This is the bare minimum.
Is that Konama push gift, something like that? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, with the cars and...
That you're going to push a baby out, so you get a gift.
You get a reward for that.
Hectic.
But that's a bare minimum thing. If you have a uterus, you've got a womb, you've got a vagina, it's standard procedure. But if a man is taking care of his family, working 3 jobs, he's going to be like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do anyway. He doesn't have to do that. The same way you don't need to push out babies. He doesn't have to do that.
Do you ever hold men accountable in your videos? Or do you only focus on women? And is it because you're a woman?
Yeah, I don't really I don't really talk about men and trying to hold them accountable. I talk about women because I'm a woman. And I think the confidence also comes from the fact that I know how women feel. I know how you think. I know what experiences you went through. So that's why I can articulate it in a way that even you as a woman can understand and be like, okay, if Siphesihle can think this way, I don't have an excuse because she goes through the same things I go through. She feels the same things that I feel, but she's still able to see things in this way.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse. But when it comes from a man's perspective, I'm going to say men provide, but I don't have a perspective of how is it for men in the workplace? What pressures do they go through? What are the things that they think about that are hindering them from providing for their children and this and this and this and this? You see, those are things that I can't deep dive into. All I can say is men do the right things. You see? So for me, it's like if I'm not going to go deep into it, then why am I? Because I don't understand it as fully as I need to.
But you understand this is why people would see you as a patriarchy princess, a pick-me.
Yes, for sure, yes.
Trying to get the male favor.
Yeah. I understand that for sure, but I think for the women that follow me, they see it as it's beneficial for them to speak to them about themselves.
Have you seen any men, whether local or abroad, that do similar content as you do, but specifically directed at men?
Yes, this guy called Ashbidi. He's on TikTok. They call him Ashbidi.
Based where? Here?
Yeah,
in
he's
SA?
from here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just like, maybe men don't like to hear that stuff. I don't know. But that man makes the same. He talks about this Ashbidi. Yeah.
Okay.
Ashibidi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ashibidi. Okay.
Yeah. And I listened to some of his videos, and he explains masculinity so well. And he's like, the reason why you men, you go for baddies instead of is because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he analyzes it from the male perspective, something that I could never do. But I can come here and be like, the reason why you girls sell your bodies or what is because of, do you understand? Because I know what it feels like and I know what it is to be a woman. So I think also another thing for me is that we've been talking about men for decades. Like, for me, it's like, don't you want to hear something different? Because if I'm going to go onto TikTok and be like, yeah, men, they always do that, I'm going to be the same as thousands of other influencers or content creators. I'm going to be doing the same thing. It's not going to be different. Yeah. Why are you guys not satisfied with the thousands of people that say what you want them to say? Yeah. Why is it still not enough? Why do you need to recruit Sihle to get in there and do the same thing? Clearly, it's not working for you. Clearly, that type of messaging is not satisfying for you because all you need to do is bash, laugh, and then it's over. It doesn't change your life in any way. But then when people listen to Sihle, it's like, now I go to the drawing board and I'm like, whenever I pose, I'm always like trying to stick my bum out. Why am I even doing that? When I use filters, I can see that I'm constantly relying on filters. It actually does something for you. You see? So for me, talking about men does nothing for me. That's why for the biggest part of my life, I dissented them and I didn't care about them. And it was only from a certain age where I was like, okay, let's see what men are about. But in general, it does nothing for you. And I'm not going to do it, unfortunately. If they want to hear about men, they must go to other creators that do that.
There's a documentary called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I think it's also available on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, or two of the things that you can take out from that documentary, people should go watch it, is social media dysmorphia or something along those lines, where young girls see a Kim Kardashian face. They use the filters and makeup up to a point where they're like, I actually want to go for surgery to look like her because I hate what I look like. And it's caused a lot of depression. I think there's also cases of suicide where young girls just feel ugly because my boobs are not that big, because my jawline is not that chiseled, because my nose is not, and I feel ugly and I want to do a whole lot of things. Another thing that comes out in that documentary is what you're saying about Google. And people will not know this, that depending on which part of the world you're in, your Google search will give you a different result, which means there are people out there who are, for whatever reason, trying to have some type of feel or culture in the space they're in, that when someone Googles, they've done Googles on things like, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say, are women happy? And and maybe you ask that in Alex, or you ask that in Emlas, versus are women happy in a Stellenbosch? You may find the answers are different. The first thing that pops up, at least, because they have a culture there. You can always argue that it's based on the feedback, but it's the same Google search engine that says that. The way you view women, which I agree with, and many men agree with, and women that are Christian and take accountability agree with, do you feel the same about Black people? Black people have also for decades, centuries been whining and complaining.
Yeah.
White people this, apartheid that, we want the land. And it's almost similar to what we hear, women complaining and being victims all the time. But there's almost no accountability that, look, the reason you guys are here is because of the way you behave, the way you vote, the way you spend your money. Do you feel the same? Would you do content aligned to something like that? Because you said you're a woman, so you can speak on that experience.
Yeah.
But here you're also Black. Would you speak on that experience?
If TikTok doesn't keep taking down my videos.
Damn.
Because there was a time when I went into things like that, like, okay, Black people, for example, I made a video about the speaking English and how Black people just like, they idolize English so much. And now it's getting to the point where the next generation, the 12-year-olds, they can't speak Vernac anymore. Like,
all.
and I'm
Including
like, okay,
my children.
so really?
Yeah, my
you did
children
that on
can't
purpose?
speak. We can speak about it after you answer.
Okay. And I was like, okay, all of this, I love being Black so much. I love our music. I'm a piano and rara. But then now I don't see a future of this music genre because the people that are coming up and supposed to take over, they can't even speak Vernac, you see. And I believe that English is not a measure of intelligence. And that's why sometimes I even pronounce things the way that I want to pronounce them. And I get mocked for it because they're like, oh, she can't even pronounce it properly. And I'm like, I don't care as long as I know what it means and I know what it does. You can pronounce it, but you don't even know what it means, you see. So I've spoken about things like that and I've received backlash from Black people. And that's why TikTok takes it down because they report it as racism or whatever.
Hate
they
speech.
just say hate speech and stuff like that. So I definitely believe in being a Black person, and I feel like you can only be a victim to a certain extent. Like, there's literally no way that now we get all of these opportunities, we get to do all of these things, but every time, every paycheck you get, you're at Groove at VIP. That's the reason why these girls can be hosts, because there's men like you that are going to go there into that section and buy alcohol just so that you can sit with that girl in this section. You understand? So it's like, what are you even doing with this little money that you have? Yes, white people, like, they have a big percentage of the wealth, blah, 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 blah. But you are working and you're still doing nothing. You get your 3,000. What are you doing with the 3,000? Nothing. So how can you be trusted with the whole country's wealth? What are you going to do with it if you're not even faithful with your own 3,000 that you have at home?
Sure.
You see? So for me, it's like, you can't keep saying, no, first give me the opportunity, then I'll show you. Start with the one that you have, and then we'll see where it's going. That's why I even spoke about, when I was talking about the Chidima thing, I was talking about Nigerians and how a lot of celebrities would be like, yeah, we stand with Africans, they are independent, but what has your independence done for you? You have no white people. You say that you're not colonized, but what have you done with this freedom that you have? Now it's looking like, hey, we're better off with the white people because at least we get jobs, at least we get to live in decent places. You understand? So it's like, Black people need to take accountability at some point as well and do what they need to do with the little that they have, with whatever that they have. Yeah.
I lived with, so I've got quite a few kids. I get attacked for it on social media.
I heard of that.
About 7 children, thanks to the 5 mothers that gave birth to them.
So Vele is different mothers. I thought they were exaggerating.
No, sometimes about 16 or mama about 30. Or
I
whatever.
heard that it was 7, so all 7 of them.
No, it's 7 mothers and it's 5 kids. 7 kids, 5 mothers. Sorry.
Okay.
So 2 of the moms gave me 2 kids each.
Oh, okay.
Before they saw the light.
Yeah.
And ran away. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I lived with 2 of my kids, my firstborn, Nkunzi Malanga, and his younger sister, Africa. I lived with them for about 8 years, Africa 6 years. And during that time, I took Nkunzi to an audition for Isbaya.
Okay.
Yeah, Bomb Productions. I was quite excited. He ended up on a movie, by the way. I think it's still on Netflix, called Baby Mamas, with Salamina Mosese acting as his mom. And Stefina was the director. It was pretty brilliant. young black female director, young black female actress, and Selemina's a really great example for morality because her and Uhausa have got an amazing marriage from what we see at least. So I take him for an audition for Isibaya, and when he gets there, I get asked, but in my head I'm like, duh, uyakwazi ukukhuluma isiZulu? I'm like, yeah. So they start speaking Zulu to him, and he understands. Himself and his sister understand Zulu. Then they ask him to respond back, and he was clutching at straws. So in that moment, for a split second, I almost got a bit annoyed. Aibo, kuluma. But then I quickly realized this is what happens with a lot of our parents. Why don't you know this? Why don't you know this? The answer is because you never taught me. You never taught me. It is unfair for you to expect me to know what I was never taught. So I realized, okay, this is where I'm falling short. I actually need to bump up his vernac, his isiZulu. We went home. The audition was so okay. His Zulu was it's completely gone now. We went home, and during that time, I remember speaking to my mother. I think I spoke to my brother and my sister. I spoke to their mother as well. And it was like, hey, we need to bump up the isiZulu for these kids. Then I asked myself, why do they not speak isiZulu fluently? And I went through that whole philosophical journey of the reason I speak isiZulu or spoke isiZulu as much was environment. isiZulu allowed me to converse with the majority of the people, gain opportunities, and my kids don't need that. They're being raised in Johannesburg. The spaces they're in are mostly English. The little bit of isiZulu that they have is enough to get by. Sanbona njani, no siyaphila. Can I please have a packet of chips? Yeah. It's like, oh, khuluma isiZulu. It's like, it was just a greeting. That doesn't even count. So I'd go on this journey where even today, I still debate with people on what language is. And I've seen platforms like the Castle Milk Stout Black Conversations. They've had, I think, an episode on language. And I appreciate the fact that someone, I've had him on the show, Abba Ayaleo Amlak, speaks about how we are spirit. This is just a perspective. We're not saying that this is fact or the way. He speaks about how we are spirit. And before Waba Umkosa, before Ngaba Umzulu, we were people. We probably spoke whatever language but we'd communicate in a certain way. I see you walking in the door, I smile. I didn't say anything to you. Or you see me angry. Or someone grabs you aggressively, like, I don't think this person's happy. And you're like, but he didn't say anything. It's like, well, the spoken language or the written language is just one of the ways of communication. I had to go to the foundation of what language is or what it's meant to be. And I'm at a point now where some might call me a sellout, coconut, sfunde kakhulu, where I'm like, language is a tool. I believe that's what it was meant to be. And I believed it did and it still does serve a huge purpose. And the more languages you can speak fluently means the more cultures you can access very easily. So you can, I think Mandela says, when you speak a person's language, you speak to their heart or something like that.
That's what I was also thinking.
Yeah, so that's how you win someone. So I meet you, you're a lady. I'm like, oh my gosh, your makeup is stunning. That's me using English, if that's the language you speak. Or mhlawumbe ukhuluma isiZulu, oh sis wazi wami muhle. Yini lento ogcobise ngayo? Now you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be nice to this person because of language. Now, when you look at the various languages we have in the world, or in South Africa in this case, you would want to maximize the articulation of the language that will give you the best outcomes of life. Outcomes, money, which is why English is not intelligence, but it will give you access to money. Maybe Afrikaans. If I go learn Shivenda, so I had to figure out for my kids, and specifically these two kids have left South Africa. They lived in China for 4 years. They're currently living in Brazil. And the idea of a language, which many people assign to a culture and a tribe and an identity, which is beautiful, but what's more functional? Because if you're going to say language is our culture, to what you're saying about accountability, then I have to ask, so your child speaks fluent Xhosa. Molo mama nijani, asiphilile, what? Is this child dressed in their cultural clothing? No. But that's their identity. Is this child eating traditional Xhosa food? Whatever that may be. No, they're not. Is this child living a life however maXhosa used to live? The reality is no. So the only thing you want to hold on to is language. So my son can wear a suit, live in a white suburb, spend all his money with white people, as long as they call me Zulu. Be like, hey, Mfana knows his culture and his heritage. I'm like, I had to go through that philosophical process. And I'm sorry I'm speaking so much on this, but I just wanted to explain where I'm at. It is not, again, the end and the right way. It is just a perspective. I can be on Zoom, on WhatsApp video every week speaking to my kids. What is this Zulu in Komishi? What is this? At the end of the day, they are in Brazil right now. And if they want to win Brazilians and get around, the best thing is to learn Portuguese. Yeah. My son Nkunzi was getting fluent in Mandarin. Again, not because I want him to speak Mandarin. It's because that's his environment. Yeah. If he was growing up in Joburg, at least by now, depending on the spaces we're in, ngabakhuluma Zulu, ngabakhuluma mhlambe a bit of isiXhosa, ngabakhuluma Sesotho, Setswana, maybe a bit of Pedi, because of the people you engage with here. So it becomes a tool. And then the whole concept of your identity and where you come from is something that I believe in, but mostly from a historical. I know who I am. Ngunkunzi Malanga, ingane ya Penuel Ulungelo, no, whatever their mom's name is, which I won't mention here. Ngizalelwe Goli, my father uzalelwe Newcastle, umama uzalelwe eThekwini. Whether they're saying this in English or isiZulu, it doesn't, but I know who I am. I know where my family comes from. But I'm not going to speak isiZulu to jump around like a clown to prove to you that I know who I am. To what you were saying about, you can pronounce this word so well, but you don't know what it means. I don't, but I know what it means, and that's what's more important. So to answer your question, that's why my kids have lost their language.
Can I ask you something?
Please go for it.
Question, yeah, just one. So do you think that then we could also say that it's the same with blackness, like it's just skin tone, it's just pigmentation? We don't necessarily need to constrain ourselves to the fact that, you have a darker skin color as opposed to a white person. Would you say that that's the same concept or not necessarily? Because maybe let me elaborate.
Please go for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to think in my head of how I can spin this around so that I ask you a question. Please elaborate.
Yeah. So for me, I can say that like the melanin that we have plays a big role in the way that we are as Black people.
Go for it.
So, for example, you realize that Black people in Haiti and Zimbabwe not have the same mannerisms that we have. Yeah. They behave the same way that we do. They think about things in the same way, which goes to show that when we were made Black, it came with
when we were made Black. Is that what you said?
Yes.
When we were made
Black.
When
we were born Black.
No, please
Black.
Continue. There's a reason I asked.
Yeah, when we were made Black, it was so much deeper than just your skin tone is darker or lighter. And I could say that with the same people with Caucasians, the way that they live, the way that they think, it's very them. Like, okay, this is majority of white people think like this. Majority of Black people think like this and behave in this way. So that's why when it comes to race, I can say that I wouldn't necessarily say, Hamas, just... it's not that deep. It's just, skin color. It's not that deep. No, it goes down to the way that I even see life, the way that I receive things that happen in life, et cetera, goes down to me being Black. So that's
we're going to have a deep conversation now. Yeah. So I'm meeting you for the first time and I'm quite honored. Yeah. I don't know how far and wide and deep your knowledge and information goes. Yeah. So I kind of have to be sensitive in the conversation to not maybe ask unfair questions or say unfair things. But the hope is now that Sisiyazana, I can get to know you better. Sure. I've got a lot of theories around who we are, how we moved. You spoke about Christianity being your foundation. I've got a lot of criticisms of Christianity and how we live. You do believe it's the better way of living than, let's say, progressive liberal society, which is arguably fair.
Conservative, not liberal.
You are conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying your way of living is better, arguably better than the liberal.
Okay,
yeah, that's what I meant. So yes, you're conservative. Yeah. But that becomes a debate and a discussion and a deep dive. For sure. Because once you start asking the questions you're asking, we have to go deeper in history. For sure. And we have to start challenging notions. And you and I are speaking surface level about what influences young girls and young women to behave in a certain way that, oh my gosh, but everyone was wearing this. Rihanna was doing this. So, I mean, why not me? And I'm empowered. But Oprah said, and you realize all of these people, whether they are aware of it or not, are agents of certain agendas.
For sure.
Some of the agendas help you because today you don't rely on a man to provide for your kids.
For sure.
Some of them destroy you because you're like, well, I don't need a man to get by. And you kind of miss out on that and how far and how deep that goes. The first way I'm going to spin my question back to you is, you said we were made black. And my understanding is you believe in God, the God of Abraham, who is also the God of the Jews and the God of the Muslims. Do you believe in the science and the history that we've all been taught that all life started in Africa?
I don't know it deeply, but it does make sense to me.
All life started here.
Yeah, I feel like I can believe that. Because let me just say, surface level,
Sure.
in the Bible, Adam and Eve, they were born at a specific place, right? So let's say the Garden of Eden was in Africa.
Yeah.
And then they spread it from Africa. So that's why I can say that it can make sense to me for it to be like, all life started in Africa.
Sure.
So I can't say it's fact, but I can see why that would be true.
Can I ask a controversial question, but it's not important for today?
Okay.
If we all started from Adam and Eve, according to yourself and the Bible,
Yeah.
does that mean there was a lot of incest for us to get to where we are today?
That's something I also thought about. Because I'm sure Adam and Eve had a child.
Yeah.
They had children, 2 boys. But also another thing I thought of was, the fact that, okay, the Bible said they were made, the first people to be made. It didn't say after that no one was created.
So there's a chance that God made more.
Yeah, there was a chance that he made more somewhere.
But
and
we don't
then
know.
they came and then they met with the children of Adam and Eve. Because remember, it was 2 boys. So now it's sort of like, okay, if it's 2 boys and there was no daughters, where did they get the females to? Or did they sleep with Eve? We don't know. You see,
Damn.
things like that.
That's tough.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that it didn't necessarily
in
say...
your head, what makes sense is that God made Adam and Eve, and then somewhere else he made some more people.
Maybe, in order to run away from the incest concept. But I'm not really close off to that, because maybe it could have been possible that maybe they had a daughter and then those daughters, because there's also stories in the Bible where Lot had daughters and they wanted to sleep with him.
Yeah.
So incest was a thing around that
can't
time.
just go past that so quickly. Lot had daughters that
wanted to sleep. Yeah,
got him drunk
yes,
and tried to sleep with him.
Exactly. So you see that it's not a far off
incest.
It's not a far off concept. Like, it's not oh my gosh, that is not possible.
No,
because of the fact
scary.
that there was traces in there. So I don't know the full story, but I can see where people are coming from if they had to put it in that way.
Because I know even today, I know Indians, specifically in India, and there are still certain cultural groups in South Africa where marrying your first cousin is something that's approved.
Yeah, sure.
Adam and Eve were black.
It's not make sure.
Huh?
It's not make sure. I can't say. Are you telling me or you're asking me?
No, so my question was, do you believe life started in Africa? And you said you believe so?
I can see it. Yeah, I can see
and
it.
if life started in Africa, that means they were black.
I'm not sure.
They had melanin and carbon. They were dark-skinned.
Because you're saying that African means that automatically they were black.
No, I'm asking you. It's a question.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying I'm not sure if it
could life have started in Africa, but they were white?
It's possible.
You think it's possible?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I don't think that because it was Africa, they would have been black.
Okay.
They could have been white. They could have been white. They could have been Chinese. They could have been anything.
So if life started in Africa, and most people are going to assume that Africans were dark-skinned, my follow-up question would be, where do white people, Indians, Chinese people come from in your theory? Because you said we were made black, which would make me assume there were other people that were made white or made Chinese or made Indian. Where was your God making these people? How did they come about, in your opinion? That's why I'm saying it's unfair to ask these questions, because I don't know how far your knowledge and ideologies on these things go.
Okay, maybe the last thing I will answer regarding this conversation.
Zero. Ngisazongenela, khuleka.
Wow, okay. When I say made black, I'm seeing it more as in like in your DNA you were born in this skin. You're
But we
born
come
in
from
this.
somewhere, right?
Yes, we come from Adam and Eve.
Who are black, which is why we're black. If Adam and Eve were white, then where do black people come from? From monkeys, somewhere.
But also, isn't it influenced by the fact that if you're in Africa, the sun
So the
affects
reason,
the
so
way
the,
that your hair is darker because of the sun, or your skin is because of the sun.
Sure.
You need that melanin in order to protect you. In Europe, they didn't have to be black because they didn't need melanin because the sun wasn't as
Sure.
strong. So I can even go back to saying, what's that thing? What's the theory of animals adapting to whatever environment
Evolution.
that they... Yes, that. So it could mean that, like, let's say we were all white,
Yeah.
ne? And then because a lot of the people stayed in Africa, they became darker over time to adapt to the sun and etc. That's why
Bayasha.
our noses are wider, because
we
you
have to
see,
breathe in more oxygen.
environment. And then some people moved to the west, to Europe, etc. And they became lighter because they didn't get contact with the sun like that. And over the years, their features adapted to the environment.
So when you compare black South Africans to Zimbabweans, to black people from Haiti, Jamaica, and you say we all behave the same, even though we're in different environments, and you're arguing melanin and saying it's more than just pigmentation. See, this is me running away from your question. You believe that because white people have been living in colder climates and are now lighter and have different hair and smaller noses, that's the reason why they can't sing naturally, why they can't dance, why they're not rhythmic.
No, those things, Pella, those things are things that you can learn.
But when you say we behave like other black people, are those not things you can learn? There are white people that can dance. There are white people that can sing very well, just like a black mama from a African American church.
Okay,
That's
so
something
you're-
they learned.
Okay, so you're saying that, I'm saying that white people, it would mean that they can't dance because they are white. And
You said we behave the same. So I'm just asking, when you say behave the same and you attribute it to more than just we're dark, that there's something more. I'm just asking,
I think
can't other
maybe
people...
maybe it's just their culture and the way that they lived at that time. White people, because they were in the European side,
Yes.
they adopted a specific culture. And here in Africa, the black people, we had our culture, so it was passed down
Yeah.
in that way. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but...
So if we go all the way to history, it becomes very messy. So we have to go to
Yeah.
shallow history. And shallow history, I will agree with you that it's a culture thing, the way we are,
influence, yeah.
which I then wouldn't attribute it to pigmentation.
Okay.
I
makes
think
sense.
the white South African Afrikaans person whose family have been here for 10 generations has got a different culturalization to the white European German who's been there for 10 generations. The white South African Afrikaner won't be like a black because even in the last 10 generations, they haven't been behaving the same. But if it so happened that that white Afrikaner family has been living in deep rural Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and they've been living side by side with black people, their musicality, their command of vernac, the way they view the world,
Yes.
the way they interact with nature, I think would be more aligned to a black person. So I do not think, because your question comes from the language question.
Yeah.
I do not think pigmentation and melanin and carbon are enough to explain a way of being. I think it's a culturalization of the environment and what we create as lifestyles for all of us. Some it's more prominent, some it's less prominent. With that being said, it can be argued that there are languages, there are lifestyles that I think it can be proven that the outcome of your life would be different. I'll make a stupid example. You might find a language where you have to speak like this all the time, and everyone in that culture speaks like that to a point where they all maybe have throat cancer. And you're like, I don't understand why and you're like, have you heard how they speak? They strain their throats. There's this joke, and I apologize to all my friends from Limpopo. There's this joke about, I don't know if it's Shivenda or Chitsonga. Sizwe, why are you laughing? So expose baba. Wait till when you speak those languages, ulimala my lips.
And they become thick like Solon.
Di macheroni. So we laugh, look, and it's a joke and it's fine. But it speaks to the way you speak a certain language. Maybe the reason why women find French romantic or whatever. It does something to maybe the nose, the throat, and so you may find the way Africans curated their languages was either more animalistic. We speak closer to animals. Maybe we understand animals better. The way we speak maybe is more musical. You're like, hey, when I listen to these people, and then when you're like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful language. Whereas other people are, and you're like, aggressive. So that becomes part of your culture in the sense where even in language, I see you. Ngiyakubona. Whereas in other languages, maybe they don't have that. So as soon as they see maybe an African, they just see a slave. Hey, you, go there. Whereas I start with ngiyakubona, sawubona. How are you, Njani? Now we've created a common safe space, and then we can move forward, and then you make that culture. But fundamentally, for me, the language was meant to be a tool. And fundamentally, almost what you are arguing, the pigmentation was a function of environment. This is not going to sound good. So a dark-skinned person can work out in the fields for longer without the environment damaging them.
Yes.
Versus a light-skinned person who gets sunburnt so it becomes a function of whatever works best. The taller person, maybe this is less discriminatory, the taller person gets sent out to go and pick the fruit and because they're taller. So you're like, you guys discriminate just because I'm tall. You're like, it's functional. The shorter person is the one we send them kotini to go and take because you're like, baba. When I it's easy for you to get in there. And that's just my opinion on that.
I guess I can agree that biology, there's a difference between biology, the way that you are put together, and culture.
Yeah.
So, biology can play a small role, but culture, environment play a bigger role.
Are you a feminist? Sorry, because please finish that thought. Biology can play a bigger role?
In the way that we live and view ourselves. Like I can be melaninated girl with this hair, but I can behave very white because I grew up in a white environment and not be able to resonate with girls from the township, etc. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Are you a feminist?
No, I've never been one.
What is a feminist?
Feminist is someone that fights for women's rights, equality, and basically for women.
And you are not that.
I am not that. And that's because I don't see it surface level. So if you ask a girl on TikTok what's a feminist, she'll tell you what I told you. But me, I know that it's deeper than that. So that's why I'm like, don't identify with it. And also because of the way they go about the whole, this is how we're for women, the way that you're going about it, it's already a zero for me. So the title is not enough. Just because you said you're for women and you're fighting for the equality rights of women is not enough for me to take it on. What makes me take it on is how you go about that, trying to bring equality, etc., etc., etc.
What is the deeper understanding of you and feminism and why you don't support it?
Okay, so in the beginning, I was always very sketchy about feminism because I was like, okay, I hear what they're saying. Like, okay, voting, what, men didn't allow us, what. And
damn,
like,
what? Hey, this is an agent, Mos. Yes.
And I was like, okay, I see where you guys are coming from. But there was still not enough for me to be like, I'm taking on that because I saw in the way that they went about it. So when I did research on feminism, because I was like, okay, I'm very unsettled with this feminism thing. Let me get deep into it. Let me not just be satisfied with we are equals for women, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So when I deep dived into it, I got to ask questions about like, okay, so the history says that women were not allowed to vote. Why was that? Like I said, if you go to Google and you're like, why were women not allowed to vote? It's going to say, they said
Because
they're
men
stupid.
said they were stupid.
and they're very emotional. So no. But if you go deeper and you go into the books, you will actually learn that, for example, the reason why women were not allowed to vote is because men were the heads of the house. So they voted on behalf of their households.
Almost
number
like
one.
voting on behalf of your kids. It's the same
Basically,
reason kids can't vote.
You see? So women had very much influence in what their husbands voted for. So it was just like, out of all the families, one man, one man, one man, one man, one man.
To represent, almost like our politicians now.
Yes.
It's like, why don't you sit in parliament? Is it because we're stupid? No, it's because
Exactly.
we have representatives.
Yes, we've got one person representing us and
Yeah.
what we're believing in, etc. The other reason was that women were more into, like, they were voting more municipal and
Level.
local thing, yes, because they were in charge of the schools, the hospitals, the shops and whatnot, because women were more nurturers and whatnot. Those are the roles that they played. So anything with children, education, teaching, they were there. So they had the power there.
Yeah.
Government at that time was force. Force meaning war, anything that had to do with violence. And because women are not, you're not going to war, you're not going to fight for the country. So why must you vote? Do you understand? So it was like you still have influence in other areas, just not this one, because it's like saying someone in the receptionist must have a say in the finance department in a company. Why? You're not even here. Like, you're not even participating in the
But
things
why
that
must the
we're...
receptionist be a woman? But please continue.
Sorry, Ricky, I'm just making an example.
Sure. No, I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so even if it was a man, let's say
Sure.
whoever in that department, you can't have a say in finance because you don't know anything about finance. You're not in that department, you see. Another reason that I saw that was very important is that there was a lot of women that were against women voting because they saw it as if women start voting, then it's going to progress and more things and more and more and more, which is going to lead to things like the women were saying at that time that if we make men and women equal sexes, and I say sexes specifically because body, I'm talking about biology. If we're saying you and me are equal, it means that chivalry will die. What is chivalry? Politeness towards women, men being polite to women and say, okay, she's a woman, she can't pick up this heavy thing. I need to help her. Because now I'm saying me and you are the same thing, it means that you don't need to help me.
Yeah, qubula, mos. I think we equal.
Exactly. So those are the things that contributed to gender-based violence because men don't
That
see
contributed to?
things like gender-based violence.
Damn. Did we just go there?
Yes.
No, please continue.
They were scared that things will, because if there's no chivalry, if there's no politeness towards women, it means that it's easy for you to be violent to a woman because you no longer see her as this weak, small, tiny thing that you need to protect because at those times, it was very mandatory that men needed to protect women, etc., etc. So that's why women of those times didn't want that. So I believe that we are equal, but we're just not equal in the same way. You have your strengths, I have my weaknesses, I have my strengths, you have your weaknesses. Do you understand? So we're equal as in we're equally as important, but we're just not going to say the equality is not going to look the same. It's just not going to look the same, and that is okay, you see. So those are the reasons that they gave. And I was like, these things, they make sense. And even the 72 years, it took 72 years for them to actually accept women into voting. And it also goes back to race again. When they were allowed to vote, it was only white women.
Sure.
Black women were not there. If it was feminism and about women, why wasn't it just all women? And also at that time, black men were not allowed to vote because they were slaves. Do you understand? So they knew that, okay, if we say women must vote, we must also go and fetch the black man there and say that he's allowed to vote as well. And also another reason was that people that own properties were the ones that voted. Men were the ones that own properties. They're the head of the house. They're the ones that pay the bills. You understand? So things like that, you don't own property, that's why you don't vote. You see things like that. So it was like, there's a lot of things that made sense. And I read those books and I watched a lot of
Documentaries?
documentaries, yes, of women talking about this feminism thing, and that there was even a time that they had to overrule, because a lot of women were so against this thing, they had to overrule it because the women were like, these ones, they're too comfortable, they're in their houses, enjoying their husbands, doing everything, they're taking care of kids, we need to overrule them. And I could go deeper into things like why they wanted women to come and work as well. And that's an elite thing. The elitists of those times, they needed more people to work because men were dying in wars, things like that. But I just went deep into it and I realized that that's why we're so unhappy today. That's why there's a lot of women who are like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home wife. And that's because we were never necessarily supposed to be doing this. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that we get to work, but originally we were never supposed to be living like this. And that's why a lot of women are trying to go back in time and be like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home girlfriend.
Yeah.
Now you're making things up.
Girlfriend allowance.
Girlfriend allowance, which was something that your husband would have done for you because he would have came home, here's the money, I come from working. Now you have to make things up because you wish that you would go to a time where you didn't need to do this thing. Why? Because naturally you're not necessarily supposed to be doing these things.
We have to go back, man. Yo, traumatized. You're saying you believe the reason we have an increase, and I fucking hate this term gender-based violence so much because it's actually violence against women. And now it's being branded as gender-based, which it's not. And I hate the fact that they changed it. Just call it what it is and don't pretend like
you're including everyone.
Don't pretend like you're including men. Don't pretend like you're including children.
Yeah.
And also, in not pretending, also don't... what was my other point? Also, don't say it's gender-based.
Yeah.
The idea that a man is like,
okay.
hey, shy, but since you're a man, I won't, is stupid. Anyways, you're arguing that you believe the reason why violence against women, or what some would call domestic violence, has increased is specifically because of equality. Specifically because some men are like, well, since you're ntanga, I can obviously moor you. It's not like you're a child. It's not like you're my inferior. It's not like I need to protect you. And then
I'm not saying that that's the specific reason, but I'm saying that is one of the reasons.
Contributing factors.
Yeah, it's a contributing factor. Because technically, if we're equal, if you slap me, I'm supposed to slap you back.
Sure.
If me and you have the same power and we're equal in the way that we're built, if you slap me, I don't need to go and run and say, oh, this man is slapping me. I need to slap you back because we're equal. Do you understand? So to show that it's impractical for you to say that we are equal in that sense, even in the physical type, it shows in the fact that women are not firefighters like that. If you had to be a burning building, they're not going to call women and say, oh, women, please come. Do you understand? In dangerous situations down at the mines, they're not going to call women. So you saying that we are equal, whatever men are doing, we must also do them, then it means if a man slaps you, you must slap him back. So that's where those things are hitting. I even saw a video on Twitter where girls are just hitting men. Like you're just slapping men and you have this thing of, yeah, because if you hit me, then it's going to be gender-based violence. And that's why you feel like you have the audacity to disrespect them, to hit them, throw things at them. Because you have this illusion in your head that, yeah, if he's a man, anything that he does, I do. But if he hits you back, it's going to be a different story. Do you understand? So I feel like it's not a specific reason, but it's a contributing factor. That's why when I read on it, I was like, how did these women know? Because this is exactly what we're facing now, that men don't see us as these things that they need to protect because we're constantly, everything that they're doing, we want to be there. We want to be there. Do you understand? So to me, it makes sense. I'm not going to lie.
It's actually a really deep topic and it's very sad because the physical one can be argued. I'm imagining a feminist out there being like, this girl is stupid.
Yeah.
Feminism isn't about physical equality. It's about if we both do the same job at work, we must be compensated the same.
Yeah.
With that being said, to that feminist that's going to be listening upset, a lot of those women, because we weren't workshopped into this thing, are going to go do the same job as the man, get paid equal, and then they're going to come with this mindset back home.
Yes.
To be like, but I earn like you.
Yes.
I can make decisions just like you. I don't need you. And that's where now, in that, the woman feels, if another man can challenge you psychologically and be like, fuck you, go die. Nami I earn like you guys. I can also do the same. But what would have happened with those men in that interaction, where there's a receptionist and you're a CFO, the receptionist was going to punch you and be like, I don't fucking care that you drive a Ferrari and I catch taxis to come here. I'll fucking take your head off. So if you're coming with that same energy of, I'm a CFO, you can't tell me. You just fucking work at a what. You know, you're lucky you're with a girl like me. I think psychologically a man starts being like, you know, the way she's speaking is like another man. So the way I get pissed off may trigger another male kind of energy and reaction.
Yes.
It's like animals in a jungle.
Yes.
It's fine for a big lion to be bitten by a rabbit.
Yeah.
It just kicks it away. But if the rabbit keeps
Coming.
jumping on its head, at some point it's gonna want to tear it apart.
Yes.
Then you're like, hey, this lion is so abusive. You're like, but the rabbit, you're like, come on, it's a rabbit. And you're like, but the way the rabbit was treating the lion was almost like, hey, mina ngisabi. So the lion was like, I'm on ngisabi, then we can go.
So
Sorry.
So that's what I'm saying, that like the way that they see you contributes in, because like you're mentioning that if you say, yeah, I don't need a man because even me, I'm working, I'm doing everything that you can do. If I want to go to the club and drink until 8 a.m., men are seeing as, you're not this woman that is always at home, because at that time they were at home, they were nurturing children. The way that they spoke, the way that they behaved said, woman, protect, love. But now if you're at clubs, you're drinking the same way I'm drinking, you're doing everything that I'm doing.
You're
so
also
it's like,
popping bottles in VIP, just
you
like
see,
me.
so what's the difference between me and you? So then now it causes, in the way that we interact, now it affects it, because when I see you, I'm seeing a man. I'm not seeing something that I should be protecting, because the way in which you're behaving is no longer the one of protect, provide, take care. You understand?
This is why a lot of kids catch a backhand. Because it's like you're back chatting. A lot of kids get hidings for the exact same reason. So when a man, you're independent, Moss. You know, if you can stand here and pretend like you're a parent like me, let's see how strong you are.
Exactly. So you can sort of like use the same concept with men and women, basically. 2
questions. With the research you've done, do you believe that women should be voting today? Number 1. And number 2, can it be argued, according to you, that women are children?
Regarding the voting, it was never about voting. Like, it's not, that's why I'm saying the voting thing just opened the door to a lot of things, because they first said, oh, just give us the right to vote. And then next thing is, oh, no, we want to wear whatever we want. Oh, we want to do this, hire us in certain positions, even if I'm not qualified. But why? There's a ton of men here. Why do you not? Yes, we need representation. Do you understand? So I feel like voting was just something that opened the door to a lot of things that we're experiencing now. So it was never about the casting of the vote, that women, they must not vote. It wasn't about that. They knew that we need to resist this thing, because once we give them small piece, they're going to take the whole cake.
Small piece.
We give them you give them a taste, they take the whole cake, basically, which is what is happening now. Exactly. You see, so it was never about that. So the voting thing, anyone can do it. I don't think women shouldn't vote. They can do it. But because of history, how it opened the door for so many things that we're experiencing today is the problem, basically.
But if we shut down the voting, then maybe all those other things will go away as well.
Maybe if we go back to the start and we try to reverse it.
Not reverse. I'm talking about now. Maybe if we keep women from voting. So I'll use, and I apologize for this comparison because it's unfair. Is it unfair? Is it unfair? Maybe it's not unfair. But I apologize if any of my Muslim friends take offense. You find in the Islamic states, a lot of the Middle Eastern Arab countries, you find in the Muslim communities, they've still kind of kept a lot of that intact. I think some of the Jewish communities as well, where the man of the house makes the decisions. When you get to a house, you don't speak to the woman, you speak to the man. The woman stays at home, and those communities seem to be functional. They seem to have present fathers. The moms are there for their kids. So my argument is almost, and the women there, they do the opposite of being naked on social media. They are
for sure
covered except for their eyes, and sometimes even the eyes. I'm a ninja. Do you think maybe if we were to, because you're making me think of something I've never thought of before. I've tried to look for solutions specifically for the Black nation in the way we live and how we can bring families together. And in most of those things, I've never thought of, if you want to fix this whole mess, slay queens and prostitution and what, keep women from voting. Because you'll find when the men vote, of which men are very problematic in various ways, but let's assume the best of them for this example. If we allow men to vote, men will make the right decisions on behalf of women. Men will be like, no, but we can't have women half naked. That woman one day needs to get married. That woman is someone's wife. So we're going to vote and say no. And other men are going to be like, but we like looking. And you're like, no, that's rubbish. We're not going to have that. Because if you like looking, bring your daughter so we can look at her. You're like, so you agree. If you're going to agree to your daughter being naked, then we'll take your vote into consideration. If you're saying not your daughter, then we can all agree that if we think our women are noble, all of them, and we see them as our daughters, all of them, then we can't allow that to happen. And then the ripple effects will be like, but these guys shouldn't be going to war. These guys shouldn't be in high stressful spaces where they're arguing with men. What do we want for women? And we laugh about it. We want them at home, raising the kids, cooking the meals. You're like, that's stupid. And you're like, but maybe that's what we need in society. But then obviously, the beauty of feminism and women empowerment, in my opinion, is we leave that space for the woman to be like, if you're going to come into the space, be fully aware that if you catch a slap, it's not going to be called GBV.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
a guy does this to you, when we have to go to war, you're going to have to go to the front.
Yes, for sure.
When we jail people, you may be going to have to go into a prison with men because you want to live this life. Because if you're a woman working in the kitchen, you're going to be treated like a juvenile. You're going to go to a camp and do community service, and then you'll go back home. But if you're going to go to jail with men. So again, in that context, I guess I'm asking the question again, do you think women today should not be allowed to vote, and that might be a solution to some of our problems?
Yeah, no, I can't think of it in full depth, but that's why I'm saying the voting thing, because now I see voting as, do you want Malema to be in parliament or not? I don't even see it as that deep anymore.
They also allowed black people to vote. So going back to race, black people also fought to vote. They voted.
Yeah.
And we see how they're living now.
Yeah.
And the question is, did voting help you? Do you guys now have land? Do you have an economy? Are your families now fixed? Or are you guys liberal, living a bullshit life, popping bottles in VIP, sleeping with varsity girls, and you're like, this is what you voted for?
Yeah.
Maybe when you couldn't vote, we'll use apartheid as an example. It's a bad one. When you couldn't vote, were your lives better off?
Yeah.
Maybe not in that context of equality, of racial equality, but you had jobs. Your communities were safe. You were going home to your family.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, the voting one, I'm not really sure. But to the second question that you asked about are women children, I don't think women are children at all. I feel like women are they're so great. They are equally as important as men. It's just that equality doesn't look the same way. And women play a big role in the functioning of society and how children are raised and, how things operate, because men can do things to a certain extent, and me coming from a two-parent household, I've seen that men can do things to a certain extent. I wouldn't say I'd rather have my mom instead of my dad. I wouldn't say I'd rather have my dad instead of my mom, because I can see how these two, they come together, they work together
Balance
so well.
out.
Yeah, they balance out so well.
Yeah.
I just believe that we need to go back to women embracing their womanhood. We need to go back to women knowing that you being a woman, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you being a nurturer in the kitchen, there's nothing wrong with that. It's even things like when I saw on TikTok, there was this trend that's like, this girl was like, where girls would do homely things, like let's say she's in the kitchen cooking and she'd be like, I'm not a feminist, and then she'd show her plate. And then they'd be like, I'm a feminist, and this lady going down a submarine. And it's like, so it's a competition now of, okay, you are doing more of a manly thing and this woman is doing more of a womanly thing, and her doing a womanly thing is looked down on. Like, why is it a competition? It's to show that the feminist agenda is to make women men. Because if you wanted women to be women, you'd be okay with the girl saying, no, I'd rather be at home and cooking and You wouldn't counterpart that and come with I go deep down in the oceans. So you're not even that great. Like, why? So I wish that we could go back to women embracing their womanhood, not wanting to be like men, not constantly looking at men and say, oh, but men are doing this, oh, but men are doing that. What does that have to do with you? We know that it affects you in some way, but you don't necessarily have to take that role and be like, okay, because men are doing this, I need to do it, because it's not going to work out the same way. For example, to show the power dynamics is that we have power to be in a relationship, right? If I want to jola, I can do that. If a man wants to jola, he can do that. But the difference is that I can't make a man date me if he doesn't want to. But men can pursue you and make you change your mind to get into a relationship if you wanted to. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I disagree. But it makes sense.
Okay,
I
for
only
what
disagree because khona amantombazana ashelayo these days.
yes, they
so
do
there are
shell
girls
out.
that pursue.
They do shell out, but if that man says no, it's a no.
Same with the girl. If she says no, she says no.
But I feel like there's always room for men being able to pursue that woman into
But
getting...
we can change that. And a yes is a yes, a no is a no. So a girl can also be like, the guy said no. She's like, I'm going to work harder.
What
I'm
I've
get a
seen...
BBL and look pretty. He's going to say yes, ngiyamfuna.
Okay, so where I'm coming from is that, you know Siphesihle Nxokwana, right?
No.
Oh, this girl on TikTok, she always talks about relationship things. And there's a whole bunch of women there that realize that, okay, you can't make this man love you. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. You can shell out him, you can buy him things, you can do his laundry. There's literally nothing you can do to make that man want you. But when that man decides, okay, I actually want to make this relationship work, it's gonna work.
You really
And
believe
that's why
that?
I believe that because I've experienced
I
it
really
personally.
hear what you're saying. I just disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Sure.
So that's why a lot of the time it's preached that don't try too hard, because if a man wants to, he will. Yeah. Don't try, my sister. Don't push. Don't, just leave him. If he doesn't respond to your message, just leave him.
Yeah.
You know, just move on with your life or go somewhere else. But you can't make him do that. But there's cases where men can actually, if men want to make a relationship work, they definitely can.
What do you think of this line? A wife is a husband's firstborn child.
I agree with it in the level of protection, in the sense that, for example, women can be very emotional beings, and we think of everything very emotionally, and sometimes it clouds our judgment in terms of, okay, is this something that should be happening or not? But a man can be like, hey, I can see where this thing is going and we shouldn't be going in this direction. And I think that's why they made them their heads, because, you know, they have that. It doesn't mean that women are not level-headed, but our emotions, because we're nurturers, we're always inclined to feel something first. And that's also something that I experienced on social media, that they're constantly feeling things with regards to the things that I say, and they don't listen.
Yeah.
They're feeling it first before you actually listen to what
They process with emotions and not logic.
Exactly. And then when you respond, you're responding with your emotions. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about, because that's not what I said. And that's not what I meant. You understand? So men have this great thing of being able to see things logically and be like, okay, I understand that this thing looks like this, but we can't lead. We can't go about it in this way, even though emotionally it would make sense, it would feel better, it would look better, but we can't go about it in this way. So I feel like the protection of men is not necessarily against danger and physical things. It's also just a protection against ourselves, because sometimes, you know, we don't necessarily make decisions coming from the right place. And I also know that sometimes I can be very emotional and not think things through. And then I can have my brother that's like, no, relax. We'll talk about it tomorrow, or we'll figure it out tomorrow, you know. So I think in that sense, there's a small part of it, because a man is supposed to protect his whole household, including the wife. So you can sort of count her as part of the kids. But because she plays a bigger role than the kids, you can't necessarily see her as a child.
You believe in biblical submission? A wife must submit to her husband, or each must submit to the other?
I believe in submission.
And if you do, what does that mean to you? Or even if you don't, what does submission biblically mean to you?
Submission for me means to trust this man that you're leading, is leading you. You understand? So if I chose this man and I know that he's got these characteristics, this is the life, submission for me is me trusting him, even if it doesn't look like, you know, that path is the right path or whatever.
Even if.
Yes, even if it doesn't
look... So it's having faith in him.
Yes, it's having faith in him. Because sometimes it's not going to look like he's making the right decision, but goes back to logic again. Yeah. He's probably calculating something. And I've experienced it with my parents as well, where my mom would be like, yo, Mara, your dad was right. And at that time, we thought my dad was insensitive. Like, how could you? Can't you see the house is falling apart? How could you make this decision? And then after that, it's like, oh, damn, if he actually listened to us, we would have been toast. You see? So that faith, that trusting that, okay, this man knows what he's doing. I trust and I believe. And even if it's the wrong decision, we'll figure it out later. But a lot of it is trust. And that's why the Bible puts a lot of weight on men. Like, you need to do the right things because this woman is trusting you. And now if you're not doing the right things, this whole family is going to fall apart. And that faith in you is going to diminish because you are not leading in the way that you should. And that's why God will hold men accountable for their families, that you are the leader. Don't tell me that your wife said, hey,
Sure.
you are the leader. So what did you do with that? You see? So that's what I feel, how I feel like submission is so beautiful. I don't feel like it takes power away from me at all. If anything, it protects me.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. That, okay, hey, at least I don't have to deal with none of that. Like, there's someone that gets to deal with that. But it doesn't mean I'm useless in the relationship.
Do you think we still have men? Do you think Black South African men are still men that have a vision, that can lead, that can protect, that deserve submission? If the answer is no, how do we fix it? If the answer is yes, why do you think so many people are complaining?
I can say no. And I think that a lot of them, I feel like men know the truth. Like they know what's supposed to be happening and what's not. But they're always looking for reasons not to. Like things like, why don't you take care of your kids? The baby mama doesn't want me there. There's always some sort of excuse. You know that that's something that you should be doing, but you're always finding reasons not to do it. And
making excuses sounds emotional, sounds like a feminine energy.
yes, because of how they sort of like want to do what women are doing now. That like, okay, you are blaming us, even us, we can blame you. Even us, we can say, yeah, it's because you did this. The same way women are saying, yeah, it's because you did this. So I feel like men, there's also a part of it that men are scared to be men because toxic masculinity, you see all of those things. So it's like, sometimes their hands are tied. Like if I do this, if I take authority and I'm saying, women, sit down, what you're saying is off. We need to be going in this direction. It's, you don't think that women qualify to be making decisions.
You're misogynist.
You're misogynist.
You're a chauvinist.
Exactly.
You're
you
bully.
See, things like that. So now it's sort of like, sometimes, yes, men are not, you're just making excuses. You're not stepping up to what you need to do. But also society has them on a lock. Like if they try, then it's constantly, you're doing this. This is toxic. What about women? What about this? What about that? So I think a lot of it, it's just fear and just not taking accountability for their own lives. And I feel like the way that you can fix it, start with your family.
Yeah.
Start with your girlfriend that you're going to make a wife, that you're going to have children with. Yeah. Because I don't believe that you can be a man to a nation, but you're not a man to your family. You understand? So start with the small things. Like I'm so big on small things. Start with that's why I was even talking about Black people with money. You're 3,000.
Yeah.
Start with that, and then we will trust you to have this wealth. So even with men, start with when you're dating, do you date with intention? Do you tell yourself that, okay, I want my children to come from a 2-parent household. This is how I'm going to go moving forward. Do you understand? Yeah. Okay, I feel like this drinking thing every weekend, what, it's wasting money. I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Let me change my friendship groups. Let me change the way that I think and not watch certain type of content. Let me stay away from porn. You understand? Things like that.
Sure.
It starts with one person, starts with you. And then it bleeds onto everything else. So that will always be the solution for me, that you need to take the step first, you at your house.
So you really must make content aimed at men, Yabon? Tell them to wake up and stop watching porn.
Well, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm just one person and sometimes I just feel overwhelmed that like, I need to be talking about this. And some people ask me, hey, what about politics? What do you think about this? And I'm like, I can't think of everything under the sun. All I can talk about is what I feel like, okay, at this moment, this is what's important. But maybe eventually, when I get more into my podcast, then I'll diverse in conversations. But yeah, that's where
you are being called. It's something I've had to struggle with myself. But you're very right. Masculinity is under threat.
Yeah,
just
no, for
even
sure.
the most
Under
healthiest
attack.
Of masculinity. I'd get annoyed at times when you start having a voice. Hey, but when you start getting loud out there, people start looking to you as they're almost asking you to lead them to what you're saying about submission.
Yeah.
It's like we believe you, we trust you, we believe you have the right intentions. So what do you think of that? Because when we go out into the streets and we argue with people, we'll be like, no, but you're wrong. Siphesihle says what? And it's like, okay, so let's say you'll call it, you want to hide behind me, but you embolden people. It's what's happened with the Women Empowerment Project and feminism, there have been women in the past persecuted. In South Africa, we've got Abo Charlotte Maqenge, Victoria Mqenge, can add Abo Helen Joseph, Mam Winnie Madikizela. You know, we've had powerful, powerful women who got persecuted for standing up and being like, no, we disagree. Yes, we know men are meant to have a vision and lead, but not better. And we want to let you know. So other women would be like, yeah, you know, as Oprah Winfrey has said, as Candace Owens says, what? And you're like, okay. So people would like to hear that from you. And I think specifically because you come from Christ, I think you've been called to serve. So just embrace it, but also be selective of what it is that you're, you know, if they're like, Umihlali just got a new boob job, what do you think? And you're like, oh no, I'm not called for that.
Yeah,
I can be called for something else. So I'll comment on that. I wanted to ask about your TikTok journey personally, and maybe just social media.
Yeah.
Sihle.
Sihle with it.
Triple E with the Y.
Yes.
Sihle. When do you think you started popping? How do you feel about the reception? How do you feel about maybe cyberbullying? And are you making money? And what would you like seeing for yourself maybe in the next 2-3 years? When did you start popping, in your opinion?
Around about my 3rd video on TikTok.
Oh, snap. It took me 3 videos. It took Mr. Beast hundreds of videos. I'm a boss.
No, because I started TikTok in January. So
This year, 2024?
Yes.
Damn, well done.
Yeah, I was actually just as shocked because I thought it was going to take some time, but it really didn't. Because I started on YouTube. In 2021, I was doing YouTube videos and, you know, talking about things that I lost.
They were also vlogs, just you to camera.
Yeah, just me talking to the camera. Okay. Then I lost that account and then I started again. Then when I started again last year, one of the guys that I work with was like, Sihle, I feel like we should go into TikTok because, you know, I feel like people on TikTok are going to receive your content.
One of the guys you work with?
Yes.
Somewhere else or in social media? No,
social media.
Okay.
He's basically my manager.
Okay.
So he was like, I feel like you should go to TikTok, make short content and, you know, just to get your views out there, like to get people exposed to that. Sure. Then I was like, at first, I didn't have TikTok the whole time. And I told myself I will never download TikTok because I'm not a social media person. Like, I don't like being on social media. And I don't think that I would be who I am if I was very much on social media.
Oh. Social media is the devil.
No, it really is. Like, for me, it just alters the way that you think. It's
designed for that. It's programming.
You start thinking the way that everybody thinks because you see it on Twitter all the time. So for me, it just works so well for me to be disconnected from social media. So when I came onto TikTok, I was like, okay, a lot of people also, I'm going to answer why people say that, why don't I follow anyone on TikTok? Because when I came on
you follow 0.
I follow 0.
You're going to follow me after this. Damn.
When I got into TikTok, it was, I'm here to post these videos and go.
Sure.
I'm not here to consume. I'm not here to hear who is saying what's going on.
And their pop opinions.
And, you know, for me, that's just like, it's a waste of my brain.
Don't love khumutz. I tell people all the time, hey, please follow me back. I'm like, is your content worth anything? No, but just no, I'm not going to follow your pop content.
So yeah, I was like, I'm not here to engage. I'm not here to participate in this thing. I'm just here to post these things and go, you know? So that's what I did. So around the 3rd video, the 3rd video was about feminism. I was talking about these fake feminist girls that actually hate men, but they say they're feminists, and that is not feminism. Yeah. That's misandry. So I made misandry. When you hate, when you
it's like the opposite of misogyny.
Basically.
Misandry. Okay.
Yeah. So then it went viral. Vele men were like, so women started hating, like, oh, there's men in the comment sections. That means this girl, nonsensey, whatever. So that's where
patriarchy princess, pick me.
Pick me, that's where it started. And then Vele, from then, my videos have been coming. So it's literally been 6 months. But I will say that, like, for me, a lot of people would, from the outside, you say, this girl, she's being bullied and, you know, she's being hated. But I don't necessarily receive it as that because in order for you, I feel like if you have to be a bully, you have to have an upper hand on the person you're bullying. So for me, you guys don't have anything that I want or anything that I respect. So I can't necessarily say you're bullying me.
Damn.
Let me give you an example. You see in movies, the big kid would always
Pick
bully
on
the
the little kid.
small kid, because why? They don't have power. You're a small girl or you're a small boy, so the big one. So for me, you have to, that's why I'm saying you have to have something on me that I can say.
You and your 2 followers
Yo.
trying to bully me
No,
from your pop life.
not even that, just the way that you think. Like the way that you...
Come on, why are you hitting chest pains?
The way that you're saying that you're coming for me is nonsense to me, because the things that you're saying, they don't carry weight. They're invaluable to me. If you're coming to me with facts and saying, Sihle, what you're saying, and come for me with things that I can actually think and be like, this person has a point, then I can say, yo, guys, I'm this small girl who doesn't really know much, and now the big guns that knows the stuff are coming for me. Then I can say, bullying. But now if you're going to come and just say, oh, she's a pick-me, oh, Miss Andre P says, what's that? That means nothing to me, you see. So I don't necessarily see it as bullying, but I do understand when people say cyberbullied, etc., etc. And also because I'm disconnected, I post and I go. Sure. I don't necessarily sit there and say...
And engage and take the little hits.
Yes, and say, because for me, it's like, what am I going to do with that? I'm not going to do anything with that. So that's another way that protects me. But also I've always had thick skin. Like I've always been that girl, because I started in high school where I would talk and be like, hey, this thing that you're doing, I don't want to go and drink alcohol. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I'd face backlash, people saying, Pastor, Miss Goody Two Shoes, oh, Miss Know-It-All. So to me, what they're doing on social media, it's the same.
I know this life.
Yeah, I know it. Like, you're not saying anything new to me. I've lived it before. And that's why I can be so bold on social media, because I know that I can handle it, you see.
How many followers do you have now?
142.
Damn, in 6 months.
Yeah, in 6 months. It was actually insane. And 2 million likes.
Haters say, what? Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's because of the type of content that I make, honestly. People will say it's controversial, but I don't see it as controversial. Like, how is me saying gender doesn't mean women controversial? That's a dictionary meaning. When you go there and you Google dictionary, it's going to tell you gender doesn't mean women. How is me saying, hey, you are attracting these men that you're attracting because of the clothes that you're wearing? How is that controversial? That's like a normal thing. Like that's some things that your parents told you, things that your mothers, your fathers, your grandfathers, your great-grand have been telling you, that you need to, as a girl, carry yourself in this way, do this, because the life that you live, the life that comes out of that, you will be rewarded, with the lifestyle that you get, the value of your life. How is that controversial? The reason it's controversial is because their brains are fried and everything that
But you must also be a bit soft, though. Hi, boo.
How am I so? Do you see how those people? If I came onto TikTok and I was like, guys, do you mind to maybe just don't do that? Like, you guys are great. You guys are great. No one was going to take me serious. They're going to say, hey, wena.
So you're shaking them up. You're waking them up, basically.
Yes, because I know that the delusion is deep.
Yeah.
So if it's that deep, then the effort that you need, the force in which you need to go for it can't be small. Do you understand? Sure. So for me, all of these things are just logical. It's not that I'm not like women, I'm not emotional, but I know when to be emotional and when not to. Yeah. And the internet is not a place for feelings. The internet is a very dangerous place. The world even. Yeah. It doesn't cater to your feelings. Like, they literally don't care. So how are you going to go with you need Sihle, feel for us. I don't even know you. You are a number there on my... So how can I feel for you? When I watch content, let's say, for example, Candace Owens, I feel that thing of, Candace. But I don't expect Candace to cater to my feelings, because she's making content. Like, that's a video and she's talking to people and she's hoping that it will reach someone. Yeah. So you can't be putting that on me, that I need to, think for us. How? That I don't even know you. You see?
TikTok is your preferred platform?
No, it's not. YouTube is actually my preferred. But I've seen that because people are on TikTok, it's easier for me to reach them there. And also I can bring them to YouTube.
Are you loading your videos on YouTube?
I do have a few of them, but I haven't posted in a while because I've been, trying to get studio and things like that in terms of my podcast. But yeah, I feel like the reason why I want to go into YouTube is because I can expand on the things that I say. Sure. Pela, now TikTok is 2 minutes. Sure. So you can say, this is what Sihle meant, even though that's not what I said. Yeah. But when I go onto YouTube, it allows me to elaborate, to explain it further. But I'm glad that there's people that just hear it from the jump, like, we get what you're saying. Yeah. But some people need it to be, so that also your understanding can be deeper of what I'm trying to say. And so that when you grasp it in a deeper way. So yeah, so I guess my TikTok is going to feed my YouTube at some point. But
Are you making money online? And what's your vision for what you're currently doing? Do you work? Sorry.
yeah, I used to work, but I don't work. This year, I decided not to work because I wanted to get into...
You're taking a gap year,
Yeah, sort of.
staying at home
Yeah.
with the parents,
Yeah, with my
and
parents.
they understanding.
Yeah, they're understanding. My parents are very like, do what you need to do. If this is what you want to do. I don't know how many things I've decided
27
to do.
is ugogo. If you're saying 17 or 21,
You would understand.
27 is old. No,
Yeah,
I
it is
apologize,
old, but-
but you're an adult. is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
for sure.
You mentioned a
But-
brother, siblings.
Yeah, I've got 2 brothers and I've got 2
Older.
other sisters. Yeah, older brothers.
Yeah, this is why you like this. Okay.
Why?
2
What
older
does
brothers.
it have to do with
You
it?
love your brothers.
Yeah, I love
Very
my
much.
brothers very much.
Yeah,
And
I
they
get
love
it.
me as well.
Yeah,
Why?
you're like my sister Penrose. My sister also gets vicious when she listens to women talking shit. She's like, guys are talking smack. I've got 2 older brothers. You guys are lying.
Exactly. Yeah, it just gives you a whole different perspective.
2 older brothers, 1 younger sister.
An older sister, 2 brothers,
Sure.
me and a younger sister.
All from the same parents.
Yes.
Damn, shout
All
out to
of
your
us
parents.
all of us from the same parents.
I don't know
but
if you
yeah.
want to talk about what work you did before or no.
Yes, I was in, it was sort of like a retail space.
Okay.
I was working there, and then I decided, because I didn't necessarily have time, because I was doing both like YouTube and working,
Yeah.
but then I just didn't have time. Like I was constantly drained because I was working even on weekends.
Sure.
So I decided that, okay, maybe I could probably just look for another job while I do this thing. But I knew that I have to do this thing because I was having sleepless nights knowing that, I have to make content. I have to, get these views out there. Because even when I would talk to my friends or just random people, they'd be like, people need to actually hear these things. Like people don't know these things. They need to hear it. So it's always been a burden in my heart. And I decided to trust God and be like, okay, God, I'm going to leave this job to pursue this thing. But I know that eventually maybe I'll find another job, or maybe it's going to just work out differently in the industry. And I won't lie, Shem, ever since I started, I've been getting gigs like a campaign that pays. So I haven't been broke
Yeah.
the entire time. And my vision is to...
Before we get to your vision, are you making money? And if you are, where are you making money? I don't know if you're comfortable speaking numbers. You don't have
no,
to.
not necessarily speaking numbers, but...
You're not comfortable
when I
speaking numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I get invited onto shows, they tell me, okay, this is how this is how much we're gonna pay you. Like for example, this Al Jazeera, I think that's how they pronounce
Yeah.
it, but that
Al Jazeera, it's a news network. I believe.
news network, platforms like that, they paid me. Spa campaign, they paid me that as well.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to see like, okay, so this, because they always ask me for my rates, what are your rates and stuff like that. So I do make money, but also when I came into the industry, social media industry, I didn't come with money in my head because I knew that I'm gonna have to compromise on the things I'm saying.
I hear
Because if you're gonna want brand deals for hair, then you have to say, girls, you're beautiful, we love you. And then they'll say, oh, this girl, she can promote her makeup and what. So because I'm not coming with that energy, brands are gonna, because the women that we're targeting are not really happy with you. So
Yeah.
we can't necessarily endorse you.
We're recording this in August, and a lot of money specifically now is towards workshops, conferences, speaking engagements about GBV.
Really?
And if you're not gonna stick to the script,
Yeah.
and you're gonna want to hold women accountable,
Yeah.
and
It's gonna...
you don't get the gigs and the deals.
Yeah, for sure. So that's why I say, like, a lot of it was just me trusting God. Like, God, I'm not going to compromise, but I know you'll provide for me still. I'll still find a space for me where I can make money. But also, I was very much, okay, if I'm going to make money, it's going to be on my own. Whether that's my own YouTube channel, not necessarily depending on Mang invite me or give me hair and what, you see. So sometimes I feel that they're like, other girls are making money because
They're making money.
They say the right things.
We
They
talk about
do the-
Wandi. My body works for me. Yeah, when you're willing to the palms and
Hey.
sticking to the script, there's
Hey.
money for days.
Yeah. And even other content creators, you're not saying anything that can make people feel bad. You make people laugh. You make people feel beautiful. So
Yeah.
you are, So because me, I just can't. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to do it because that's just not me,
Yeah.
So I had to know that, okay, if it's money, I'm not going to get money right now. But eventually it's going to happen. And yeah, I'm just trusting God. If anything, I'm just trusting God. But I feel like this thing, for me, it's more of a, when I die one day, I can say, God, you see? I made videos.
Sure.
I did TikTok. I did. So you can't say, Sihle, you were sitting there
Sure.
knowing all of these things and you never tried to tell people, you never tried to impact young girls, you never tried to. So that's where my hope is the fact that I'm just doing what God wanted me to do, and I'm just happy with that.
I spoke to some of the people that work at TikTok South Africa. There's a couple of countries in the world where they have a creator fund and they share with the creators on TikTok. South Africa hasn't sorted that out. And it's something that TikTok creators in this country need to push.
For sure.
TikTok South Africa to speak to TikTok, wherever TikTok's headquarters may be, or wherever the TikTok creator funds may sit, to be like, but you guys are pushing ads, because we can see the ads on TikTok.
For sure.
South African brands. So there's clearly money being made, but you guys are not sharing them
With the creators.
with the creators. In the absence of that, the other thing I challenged the guys at TikTok South Africa is create a space where ordinary people can donate money. And then you guys share that with the creators until TikTok Global comes on board. So that people can be like, oh, this is really cool, I'll do this. And so that people can get paid. Yes, there's those that perform, there's those that stick to the script, but it's not even about, I want to get paid for what I'm doing. Don't pay us. But the thing is, you guys are pushing ads here, which means you guys are making money. And the reason brands are coming to pay you to push their things is because people are creating content. They're not coming here just to TikTok for vibes. They're coming because they want to listen to Sihle. And after watching her, you guys pushed an ad and you made money, but you're not even willing to share like 20 cents with her.
Yeah.
That's almost like a form of exploitation because it's your talent.
For sure.
They don't know how much you pay to create the content, to edit, to research. So this is why we appreciate AdSense and about YouTube, because they were some of the leaders in this space. So it's a challenge to TikTok South Africa. It's a challenge to Mark Zuckerberg, and he's really become a villain, sadly, in the world. But Facebook and Instagram are not doing enough to also, because they also pump a lot of ads, especially now with some of the reels and the what, to be like, share that with the creators. Because over time, once these industries become more formalized, the best creators are going to leave certain platforms. You and your arrogance, you're going to stay alone with whoever's a loser that's still on MySpace or High Five or Napster, whatever the hell you're on. And they're going to move to these other platforms because they're going to be like, at least here I'm respected a bit and there's some type of share. What is your vision outside of sharing your message and how you're trying to fix society? What is your vision with the online work that you're doing, at least for the next 2-3 years? And do you have a mentor in the space?
I don't know if I didn't think too far about it.
Nothing wrong with that.
In terms of where, but I've always seen myself in having spaces where a bunch of women gather and we have these conferences and we meet and all of these things. I wasn't necessarily sure how that's gonna happen or in what way, because I feel like also here in South Africa is very limited on what you can do. For example, our Candace Owens, they can be in political spaces and things like that. So yeah, I'm just taking it one day at a time, but I feel like the people that I work with are constantly trying to see, okay, which spaces can we go into? How can we build this thing to be bigger than just a TikTok video or, an opinion? So I'm very much open to that. What was the other question that you asked me?
Mentor.
Or
are there people you admire? Because not all mentors are people you know personally.
Yeah.
It could be, I follow Candace Owens, I look at what she's doing,
Yes.
I try to move in the way she does. When she speaks about money and her husband, I'm like, okay, I'm falling short here. Or it could be someone in a different industry, maybe Connie Ferguson in television. You're like, I want to be like Umam Connie and one day have my own production company and bring on all this talent. And it may not be soapies or telenovelas.
Yeah.
It may be content creators. I want to have a production company so that young girls or young boys that have a positive message of change can be type of.
The people that I look up to, I don't necessarily have a mentor, but the people that I look up to is like, for example, Candace Owens, Rorisang in more of the Christian space. But I've always felt like, I'm just me. So I'm always going to try and do things in my own way.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I felt towards the church as well is that it sort of feels like the church doesn't accept me and the world doesn't accept me. So I'm sort of like in the middle. And I'll explain the church thing is that if you're someone that comes from the church, you're supposed to be speaking about Jesus, 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 Bible, all the scriptures. So if you speak about anything else, if you go and say, hey, girls are dressing like this thing, all of this is nonsense, it doesn't really sound Christian.
Sure.
It doesn't really fall
Only
under
God can judge.
Yeah.
Focus on this. Why are you discussing gossipy stuff?
Exactly. Why are you discussing what these girls are doing on shows? And I'm just like, but those things directly affect people. Because at the end of the day, if you're saying that you're trying to lead people to Christ, or you're trying to, people are in darkness and they need to be saved, then we need to go where it's dark. You can't be sitting in your church and saying, oh, we pray that eventually they'll see the light. So I'm more of the person that doesn't mind doing the dirty work and to going into those spaces and saying what is going on, So I've always felt that I don't know if I can look up to church people because they don't necessarily have, they don't feel like they need to be doing that. So that's why I look to more international people like Abu Candace Owens, because they are Christian. Abu Seth Gruber, they are Christian, but they speak.
Seth
Gruber.
Okay.
Yeah. He talks about a pro-life abortion and things like that. And he's very much Christian. But then he doesn't Jesus. You understand? But the principles, the motive behind it is that, you see. So
Kind
I look
of
up
ironic because Jesus was a guy who worked in dark spaces with dark
exactly.
people.
He was the one going into the temples and pushing tables and saying, what is this? Why are you selling in the house of the Lord? Like, you understand, things like that. He was very controversial in the things that he said, because they would say, how dare you say you're the son of God? And he say, I'm the son of God. Yeah. He literally didn't care. So I feel like people see Jesus as this meek, and I don't see him as that at all. And if anything, I feel like he gave me this bravery. That's why I feel like I can be bold about it, because he was just as brave. So I think I'm also trying to remodel Christianity in South Africa, in that you don't have to be a and and say
Jesus Christ was
only.
a rebel and a revolutionary, but
Very
he's being sold now
much.
as a timid. It's almost like Mandela. No, Mandela was being sold as a forgiver, and you're like, way before that, the guy was Julius.
Yeah, for sure.
Flaming Julius back in the day.
Imagine. And I didn't even know that. But that's the same thing they did to Jesus. Like, they have him holding this sheep and, he's and to me, I don't see him in that way. So I think I'm just trying to remodel him and be like, maybe it's because I'm a woman, people would see it better if it was a man. But I'm just like, I don't fall under those constraints of Christian culture. And I believe Jesus, I believe the Bible, the rest of the culture is yours. I don't have to participate in that culture. So I try to look to people that are very bold. But I think it's something that I need to pioneer in a sense here in South Africa. Sure. Yeah, overseas there's many of them, but in South Africa I sort of have to pioneer it and be like the first one to walk these small steps. Sure. So, and I'm open to that, honestly.
Any closing words besides giving a shout out to Eguruleni and Kempton Park and all Xhosa ladies and Christians?
I just want to say that, like, I'm not here for the same reasons that other people are here for, if I had to put it in that way. That's why I don't feel the need to compete and be like, this one, with other intellectuals. Like, that's something that I also face, that other intellectuals are like constantly coming at me like, what are you doing? Like, we sort of need to be in the same team, but because you are very fried by social media and you want to be hyped, you're trying to use me as a way to gain popularity. Yeah. We're not here for the same reasons. I don't even care about this space. I'm just here to do what I need to do.
Oh. Cloud chasing is what it's called.
Cloud chasing, exactly.
You're not here to chase clouds. You're here to deliver a message.
I'm here to deliver a message, and I just want to thank all of the people that have supported me, the men that have carried me until women started listening. I will never forget those men. They used to tell me,
Sihle,
they used to say, Sihle, don't give up, please, Sihle, please keep going. And eventually, Vele women started coming on board. So I'm so grateful to both the men and women that have listened, if anything. Like, they've listened, they've given me a chance, and they can see my true intentions. if I ever had to have these things come into my head, please tell me, send me DMs and say, Sihle, you're losing the plot, because that is not something I ever want to do intentionally. But if anything, I'm just grateful, and let's just see where this thing goes, honestly.
I literally had men and women asking me to sit down with you. So it's pretty dope that it's
Right.
not just men.
Yes, it's
that
changing.
there are women who are like, please sit with this young lady.
Yeah,
So-
no, for sure. And for me, I was sort of like excited when it started off as hate, because I knew that if it starts off as hate, it ends as love.
Yeah.
When it starts off with love, it ends as hate.
Yeah.
And I can give you a lot of examples of people that started off being loved, and then now it's like, oh, I can't stand her, or oh, she's not the same anymore. But I can give you a lot of other reasons of people that started off being hated, like Candace Owens, Andrew Tate. All of those people started off as being, you literally do not need to be on the internet. You are bad, bad, bad. And then where are they now? Andrew Tate is the most viewed, most Googled, 8th most Googled man in the world.
Yeah.
Every time he's on a podcast, everyone is there. But in the beginning, you said, Andrew Tate, misogony, internalized. Yeah. So I think for me, I was just happy when it started off that way, that, oh, okay, love is coming.
It's easier
So-
to start off with hate because it ends with love. It's very dangerous to start with love
Well,
because
it
it's probably going
ends-
to come with hate.
Exactly. So I'm just grateful that it started off this way. And if anything, I'm just here to stay. By God's grace, I'm here to stay.
Siphesihle Nxokwana.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming through to the Penuel Show, and looking forward to watching your career and your message as as your voice becomes more and more loud and more powerful.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for having me. I knew that talking to you would feel like I'm talking to a friend.
Hey.
I felt so light, because also the type of person that I knew you were. So I just knew that I can just come and be myself. So thank you for giving me a platform where I can be myself and encourage me. And I feel like I can learn from people like you as well, because when I watch your things, I'm like, okay, this guy hasn't died yet. He's not depressed. So if he can do it, then I can still continue. Like,
With
I
the
can
grace
still,
of God, we will live long.
you are living. So it's things like that. Like, even though we don't make the same type of content, but the fact that you are still here, you're still pushing,
Yeah.
even regardless of the things that are happening, is things that motivate me. Like, okay, our Penuel are doing it. Why can't I do it? So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye. Yeah.
Hey, uyakhuluma uSiphesihle.
We